All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Moonshots and Meatballs, your weekly baseball fix. And we got something a little different for you here. We got an newly MLB drafted prospect, Jack Perkins, with us. So delighted to have you with us here, Jack. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Really excited to be here.
So, Andrew, we'll let you start.
Just kind of tell us about the process with the draft. Were you in contact with the A's at all? Did you know it was going to be them? Were you thinking another team? Just kind of lead us down that path.
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a crazy process for me personally. I attended the MLB Draft Combine this year out in San Diego. And through that process, it's basically just do some medical stuff, like get the basic physicals out of the way. And in doing so, you're granted 75% of the slot value of whatever pick you're drafted at. Because in years past, guys would draft a senior sign, a 22-year-old like myself in the top 5 rounds. And, you sign for $5,000 and it's super underslot and you get to save a lot of money. So the Players Association this past year put into place some of these new mandates for the draft. So I took advantage of that, got to experience San Diego. And out there, we also got to do some team meetings. So I met with 3 teams, and it was the Yankees, the Pirates, and the Astros. So coming into the draft, I felt really good about all my interviews. I was like, it's going to be one of these teams. Like, they all went great. And our pitching coach at IU, Dustin Glant, he actually was the AAA coach for the Yankees. So I was like, okay, there's a good in. Like, I work good with their system. Like, it'd be a great fit. So I was 100% expecting it to be the Yankees. Surprisingly, I've never talked to Oakland. I didn't talk to him out of high school, didn't talk to him last year being draft eligible, and I didn't talk to him this year at all. But my agent, he called me about 10 picks before I was drafted in the 5th round. He was like, hey, Oakland, they say they're going to take you with this next pick. What do you think? And I was like, super thrown off. I was like, I don't know. What do you think? I was like, I've never talked to him before in my life. What am I supposed to do? But we came to the conclusion, they'd be a great fit, and super excited to be in Athletic. And, I think it's a great organization to be a part of. I think it's an organization I can move through pretty quickly and hopefully get to the big leagues as soon as possible. So, crazy experience, but super excited.
Yeah, man, I'm sure you can't be too mad about ending up in California.
Pretty nice weather out there. But now that you're drafted, what has been the process like being after draft and just going through with the athletics and all these different things?
Yeah, so I was drafted on Tuesday, on a plane on Thursday morning, and heading out to Arizona. Their spring training sites out here in Mesa, Arizona. So they flew me out here right away. Got some physicals done, all the basics, medical things the checklist you have to go through, all those types of things just to be cleared and officially signed with the Athletics. So I'm officially signed now, ready to roll. But right now, they just have us kind of building back up. I'm thinking that they said that I'll probably throw 20 to 25 more innings this year, hopefully either at low A or high A. My first outing is actually this Saturday. I'm going to throw in the ACL, which is the Arizona Complex League. I'm just going to throw 1 inning outing this Saturday. And then, hopefully they'll make a decision if they want to keep me here, send me to low A, which is in Stockton, California, or send me to high A, which is Lansing, Michigan. So
big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Definitely a long plane ride apart from each other. So I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to impress as many people as I can, and just keep my head down and be a good leader and a good pitcher while I'm out here.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned talking with teams out of high school. You said you hadn't talked with the A's. You got drafted by the Braves in the 39th round out of high school. Was there any thought of maybe going pro after that, or was it Louisville all the way, or what was kind of your thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always, as a high schooler, an 18-year-old, you get drafted or you get the opportunity to be drafted for, a huge chunk of money. You're sitting there, and obviously it's tempting. I'm not going to say I didn't think about taking it, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to a top 10 program in the country. I'm going to get my education. God forbid an injury happened, which it did. And, but I have my education to fall back on. And I'm super grateful for that. And, for my parents, getting an education was something that was going to happen no matter what, whether I went out of high school or I went to school. That's just one of those things. My dad sat me down and he's like, I just want you to know that it's your decision, but no matter what, I want you to get your education. So for me, it really came down to, I kind of had some elbow issues out of high school. I felt that at some point I was eventually going to, face some adversity or face an injury. And ultimately led me to the decision to going to school and turning down the money and getting my education. Like I said, I just think that's super important. And, I think a lot of guys that get drafted in those types of situations, you always think, yeah, I'm going to go back to school and get my education. But in reality, I'd say a large percentage of those people don't actually go back just because, then you're a 30-year-old sitting in class with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So definitely some temptations to sign out of high school, but in the long run, I think me going to college was definitely what was best for myself.
Yeah.
So for Oakland A's fans or just fans of your game in general, who do you model your game after? Who did you look up to as a kid to really get to where you are pitching now?
I think when you think about the greats, it's Nolan Ryan, it's Mariano Rivera. I developed a cutter a couple years ago and have really started to fall in love with that. And I really modeled it after his. It's one of the most iconic pitches in the game. And it was one of those things that I kind of just feel like I have a natural knack for. And it's become a really good pitch for me and I continue to develop it. Nolan Ryan with the fastball, and just his mentality, I think my lock screen right now is the picture of him with the blood on his jersey and blood coming down his face.
Yeah.
Bulldog mentality. And for me, just having the confidence to be that competitive, that bulldog on the mound, like I feel like that's super important in a lot of different aspects of life, but especially as a pitcher, like you're the leader of your team in that specific moment and you have to do everything you can to show not just your teammates, but also, the fan base. I want to show the Oakland fan base that's who they're getting as a pitcher every time I'm out there. So, just continue to strive after those guys. I'd say in the modern day, I feel like I compare realistically to like a Sonny Gray, Craig Kimbrell type if I'm a reliever, some of those guys. But I'd say a mix of those four is kind of what I'm striving for. I'm kind of trying to blend all of them.
So
a really good resume right there. Yeah.
Yeah, those are some good pitchers. You started your first 2 year, or you had the injury obviously in between your first and second year at Louisville. But what were your big takeaways pitching at a great college program like the University of Louisville?
I just think the demand for greatness, every single day you're expected to come in and just be a dog and be successful and have success. And I think, for me and what I needed as a pitcher, I needed a little bit more hands-on development, but to the player who's able to go in and fill up the zone and have success right away, it's a great fit. You have tons of super cool memories. Obviously my freshman year, my team made it to Omaha. I was able to be the midweek starter on that team. And obviously towards the end of the year, having TJ didn't get to, go with everybody, but I still have that memory of being a part of that special group of guys. So just the year in and year out success that you have, the ability to compete in a regional every year, ability to go to Omaha, have those cool experiences. It's just very rare, and, very, very blessed for that opportunity. But, like I said, just ended up needing a little more development and ended up, transferring to Indiana, which, I think was the best decision I could have made.
Yeah, I'm sure being on a staff with somebody like Reed Detmers was probably very competitive and brought out like the best of that staff because, he's tearing it up with the Angels right now.
And having being caught by like Henry Davis as well, who went first overall, great teammates.
It's cool seeing the evolution of those players as well. Reed, his freshman year, I don't think was his best year ever. And then he comes back my freshman year and is the Reed Detmers everybody knows now, the All-American that's throwing no-hitters in the big leagues. And, it's just crazy to see, how those guys progress throughout a career. You have Bobby Miller, who's knocking on the door of the big leagues, throwing 100 I mean, he's disgusting. And you just get to be around these guys every single day and see how they operate and see the things they do. And it's really rare. And like you said, Henry, he was part of my incoming class. So got to be with him for 3 years and see him grow as a leader and as a catcher. And it's super cool to be in those situations. And looking back now, like I was out in Baltimore, my girlfriend, she had an internship at Johns Hopkins for pharmacy. And it just so happened that the weekend I went out there to visit her, the Orioles and the Angels were playing. So we were like, you know what, let's go to the game. And like the day before I was on my way out there, I saw Reed had gotten called back up and he was starting that game. And, he's able to get us a couple tickets and we go to the game, and just having those relationships where you're able to talk to some of these guys consistently and they're in the big leagues. It's something that not everybody gets to do and experience. And it's super cool to be able to look back and say, I know these guys and I'm friends with these guys moving forward.
I'm sure it'd be pretty cool to be playing Major League Baseball with your college friends.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you talked about it before. You thought you could have an injury. You said you had some elbow issues, and you did, which you missed your second season, forcing you to redshirt. How did that affect your mindset? And how were you able to overcome such a serious injury like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging mentally, physically, especially having, from most people's perspectives, a very successful freshman year. I remember coming back last year, which would be like my main draft year. I had some projections to go in the late first round, early second round, after coming off of missing a whole season with injury, and living up to those expectations, those perceptions of who you're supposed to be as a pitcher, and then failing and not living up to those expectations. It definitely took a toll on me mentally. And then just the grind of the year, that I missed, sitting out, watching your teammates have all this success. Obviously ended up being COVID year, so the year got cut short, but just that mental grind of like yearning to be out there with your teammates every day and experience what they're experiencing and not being able to with an injury. It's just very difficult. There were a lot of, especially towards the end of last year, not having the success that I mentioned that I'd, wanted and others thought I might have. It gets very depressing. You start to contemplate, is this what I meant to do? Like, and then you have to go through that process of, a heart to heart with yourself. Like, is it time to move on and be an adult and get a big boy job and grow up? Or are you going to continue to play the game you love? And, for me, there was just something in my head last year. I remember praying about it, and it was just like God was telling me, like, Jack, you're not finished. Like, I want you to give it one last shot, and end up entering the transfer portal and coming to Indiana. And, it couldn't be more amazing of how he lined up the pitching coach we ended up getting, and Coach Mercer, and having him and that support staff this past year. It was truly amazing. And we didn't have the year we wanted to. I know that by any means we definitely had a lot higher expectations, but for me personally, I couldn't have gotten more out of it. I don't think. It was just a true blessing to be able to come to Indiana this past year.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I think you just said it. I think you might have answered it just now, but obviously you transfer. Why Indiana? Why you pick your home state school?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, out of high school, Indiana is always where I thought I was going to be. I always, dreamed of being kind of the hometown kid and playing for the state university, and just having that experience. Obviously, was super attracted to Kelly School of Business out of high school. I finished fifth in my class out of high school. So like my education was always super important to me, and Kelly's obviously super prestigious. But with the transfer process, for me, it was, I just am a very relationship oriented person. And like I mentioned with Louisville, it's very success driven. And if you don't have success, you kind of get booted to the back of the bus, and you have to wait for your turn again. But again, that works for certain players, and they love that. For me, I'm very relationship oriented, and so is Indiana's coaching staff. With Coach Mercer, immediately, meeting him and having that phone call, I felt like he was a second father to me. A friend, a mentor, somebody that wasn't just my coach. And if I was playing bad, he was gonna, yell at me or, not talk to me for a while or whatever it may be. He truly made me feel like I was a player that he cared about in all aspects of life. And same with Dustin Glant, just another great coach, great mentor, great friend. And those are guys that I want to have relationships with for the rest of my career and the rest of my life, like just great dudes on and off the field. And that's really what, appealed me to coming to Indiana.
Definitely. I know you said you guys didn't have the season you wanted to, but you overall became the 11th pitcher in Indiana history to reach the 90 strikeout mark. Did that mean any significance to you personally?
I think the biggest thing is just, the lack of innings I've had over the previous 3 years, really. I think I doubled my inning count almost, at least this year, from the previous 3 years. So for me, like the experience to long throughout a season and experience so many different aspects of the game throughout a season. I came in to close one game against Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament. I think I went into the 7th or 8th inning of a start at one point. I also got pulled in like the 2nd or 3rd inning of a start at one point. So just experiencing like a lot of different aspects of the game as a pitcher was super cool to me. And obviously, reaching that milestone of strikeouts, super, super blessed and grateful as well. I definitely feel a great accomplishment doing so.
Yeah.
We're glad to see you be a Hoosier, man.
Hi.
So going into the future, you said you have your first appearance coming this Saturday in the ACL League. Do you kind of see yourself laying out as more of like a relief guy or in a closer role or in a starter role, or are you just kind of feeling the process along the way?
I'm going to do whatever they think is going to be best for me and whatever's going to be best for this organization. But if I'm a reliever, if I'm a closer, if I'm a power reliever guy that's a 1 or 2 inning stint guy, I think I'm going to move very quickly throughout the organization, solely just because I think my stuff plays up so well as a reliever. I think of the outing I came in and closed in the Big Ten tournament. As a starter, I sit 92, 95, touch 96, 97. As a reliever in that game, I was 94 to 98 with a 85, 86 mile an hour power curveball. And to be able to do that on a consistent basis is not, I say this humbly, but it's not very, common to do. And for me to be able to do that, I think an organization is going to look into that heavily. But at the same time, being a starter realistically is where a lot of the money is made. So if they want me to do that, I'm going to be totally fine with doing that as well, and hopefully moving through the organization as a ace for them. So we'll see. I think it's very 50-50, just dependent on what the organization needs over the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
Any so now that you are an MLB player, you cross that or check that off your to-do list, I guess. Any like other goals or milestones that you have in the MLB that you've kind of written down that, hey, I want to do this, this, and this, or I want to get to this, this, and this?
I think obviously the main one is just becoming a big leaguer. Like accomplishing that feat is so difficult in itself. But on top of that, just sustaining that level of play. A lot of people say, it's hard to make the big leagues, but it's even harder to stay there. You think, like this year, there's 20 new guys from the draft alone coming in to potentially take your spot, on top of the guys already in the organization, on top of, like you guys are about to talk about, the trades, the blockbuster trades that are going on. So to be able to have a consistent level of success that your organization values enough to keep you up there, for me is one of them. Just to be a 10 plus year big leaguer, to me would be a dream come true, just to have that, like, again, sustained level of success. But on top of that, hopefully if I'm there for that long, I've made a couple all-star games and one World Series, like that'd be great as well. But, right now, my focus is just on making the big leagues and helping Oakland win as much as I can.
Who doesn't want to add a couple rings?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, thanks you for joining us here. You're welcome to stay if you want to talk some MLB trade deadline with us. But it was truly an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Podcast with us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
I'll stay on. Talk trade stuff.
Right, yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So with the trade deadline coming really in less than 24 hours, we had some pretty big shockers as well. Like, not all of them have been the ones that you would expect. I think the biggest one we'll start out with was the biggest bombshell today maybe was Josh Hader getting moved from the Brewers to the Padres. Andrew, what was were you expecting? I know there's been talks past couple years that maybe they do trade Hader, but did anybody really expect that?
I don't think you really expect it, but I think with having that next guy and Devin Williams already there, multi-time All-Star, it's a lot easier to move on from that. But it's very hard to get rid of like a top 3 closer in the league, especially when you're winning your division at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how it looks like just for baseball, for like a team winning their division to trade their best reliever, like what probably arguably the best reliever for the past 3-4 years. I know he's not having the greatest season now, but he's Josh Hader. He's been the one all-star reliever for a couple years now. So it's kind of weird, especially with the Padres trading Rogers back to the Brewers. These are the top 2 relievers in saves in the NL. You don't see the top 2 relievers with saves being traded. So it was definitely such a weird trade. Also, with the Padres trading Lamet, who had an all Cy Young year almost. He finished 4th in 2020, shortened year, but he struggled a bit. But that's a guy who could have some major upside. So yeah, Jack, you have any what was kind of your reactions to this huge trade?
I mean, it's wild. I mean, I think the biggest thing in play here is money, especially with, baseball is a little different than the NFL. You don't have the caps on teams necessarily. If your team is a high market team, you can basically go out and get anybody you want, especially you think the Padres in San Diego, they're doing pretty well for themselves. You think about that team and all that they have. But like you said, a very, I don't know, I guess it's just a weird situation to trade, relievers that are about of the same status. But, at the same time, it could just be a need. Padres might be really seeking a lefty matchup guy that can come in and close out a game for an inning or be a longer reliever. But yeah, I don't know. Super interesting. I'll be curious to see how it pans out the rest of the year for both clubs.
Yeah. I think the team who it burns me. It kills me to say that our Subway Series rival has probably been the most active. On July 27th, they go out after, they couldn't let the Mets have their shine after sweeping them in the Subway Series. They had to make a move, Brian Cashman. He goes and gets Andrew Benintendi. And then today, after missing out on Luis Castillo, Yanks fans calling for Cashman's job, he goes out and gets the other big arm in Frankie Montas. And it's been they also get a reliever from the Cubs. They have done a fantastic job. And the fact that they did not give up one of their best prospects in on Oswald Peraza, who everybody thought, if you want to go get a Montas after seeing the Castillo deal, you're going to have to give up either Peraza or Dominguez. And they did it, which is such a win for me.
It was crazy to me how they were able to get all of them without giving up Peraza. And they had a lot of injuries to the bullpen, and that's kind of slowed them down a bit. And then they just reload. I mean, the Scott Efros deal, he's got a 2.66 ERA this year. He's been dicing it for the Cubs, one of the only bright spots. And he still has 5 years of team control left.
Which is huge. It's huge because it's just somebody that you don't have to worry about, and just a spot that you have filled for the next couple of years that you don't have to worry about a free agent. You don't got to worry about it. And if you need to send him down, you can, but you don't have to.
I don't think they will.
Well, they won't, but it's not a guy you can you're not going to designate for assignment. It's not a free agent guy that, we're paying him $10 million a year, we can't send him down. So, I mean, is the evil empire ever going to stop?
Again, I think it just comes to money. And the crazy thing too, outside of just the big league side of things for a team like the Yankees and the money that they have is the amount of money they're able to invest in their development. You think about, Glant coming to IU, obviously a huge blessing, but I was exposed basically to the Yankees system for an entire year. And to see the progression I made in a matter of 6 to 8 months, you think these guys that are in that system doing it that are drafted as rookies and do it for 4 or 5 years. That's why, they're, what was it? Their 7th and 10th overall prospects that came to Oakland to us are of some value because, the development that they have in place and the money that they're able to spend on it, it's unreal. And, that was actually one of the things Grant was talking to me about throughout the draft process is if I did go to the Yankees, he was like, your goal should be to develop, but then get traded within 2 to 3 years for a big name guy in the big leagues. He's like, that's what they're trying to do because they develop so well and they can do that. So definitely, obviously it stinks for Oakland to see Trevino and Montas go. But, kudos to the Yankees, I guess. But at the same time, I think, Oakland's going to get those prospects they sent over are going to be in pretty good shape, if I had to guess.
Yeah, they get JP Sears, 2 pitchers, and Ken Waldachuk, who number 5, I think, and number 10 or something like that. So it's not like they didn't get a bag of balls for Frankie Montas. They got some good studs, and Oakland knows how to develop their prospects. You've seen it even without a huge payroll. They most of the years they are in the mix of it. So not this year, but usually you've seen it the past, like last year. They had a great run. So I don't think they got bad value, but I'm just surprised overall that the Yankees did not have to deal Peraza to anybody, even for Benintendi, who fits their lineup perfectly. Like, you got a bunch of guys who are hitting home runs. I mean, Judge can hit for average. Obviously, he's hitting 300, but Rizzo, you got Hicks, other guys, LeMay, whose average isn't what it was, IKF. Benintendi just gives you a guy who's a table setter. So when Judge gets up, it's not a solo shot. He moves the runners around. It's something you need, a couple small ball guys, and that's exactly what he gives you.
I think Benintendi's top 10 in the league right now in OBP.
I think he's like top 10 in average as well. He's such an underrated player, really. Moving on though, from I can't stand talking about the Yankees. I just can't stand it. One of the other trades that we had was the other most active team was the Houston Astros. The other team really fighting the Yankees for the number 1 spot in the AL. They go get Trey Mancini, and then while he's warming up to play the Astros, Christian Vasquez gets dealt from the Red Sox to the Astros. And I thought that was crazy. If you guys didn't see, he was coming off the field from like BP and kind of got told by, I think it was Matt Barnes, that you got traded. You're going to the other locker room across the way. And, all these reporters are just like, how do you feel being traded? Like, immediately. And I thought the Red Sox did a great job. They just kind of like pulled him out. Like, hey, like, this dude just got traded. He's been with us for a couple of years. Give the man some space. But I think Houston definitely got a lot better. I wanted Trey Mancini for the Mets. I loved what a story, what a player for the locker room. And dude can hit as well. Just don't look at the story.
Like you said, I mean, adding a great locker room piece like that only helps as the postseason gets going deeper and deeper. And Vasquez has shown he's clutch in the postseason multiple times with the Red Sox. Even I think he had a walk-off bomb last year, maybe against the Astros. And it sucks to see the Red Sox sell, though. I was kind of rooting for them a little bit.
Well, they're also not just, I mean, they got Tommy Pham.
And then they trade for Tommy Pham.
I mean, because they're kind of dealing the expiring contracts, and then they're picking up guys that maybe could help, so that are not as expensive. When it said Tommy Pham was traded, though, I was like, oh my God, please be the Giants. That would have been such a story.
That would have been hilarious.
That would have been so funny. Like, just seeing him and Jock together. But yeah, I mean, it definitely weird to see the Red Sox sell, kind of be buy and sell. But overall, I think Vasquez is such an underrated hitter. It's definitely, I wouldn't say risky, but a weird thing to trade for a catcher mid season. You just got to get used to pitching. Jack, you could talk about it, how relationships with catchers are with pitchers. It's definitely gonna be a little tough. You got to learn a couple new players, got to gain some chemistry, but he's going to bring a nice bat where they have had no impact really from the catcher position. He doesn't strike out at all, really. So it just makes that Astros lineup so much more dangerous.
I like the Orioles pickup too, getting Chase McDermott.
Yes, definitely. With the 3-man trade with Rays getting Siri. So they get Johnson and Chase McDermott. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I've played with Chase a few times. He's a stud. You got the great fastball. I think I don't know if he broke the Ball State record for strikeouts, but had a great career over there at Ball State and the Hoosier State. So super excited for him. I think he's going to be in the big league sooner rather than later. I think, did he go to the Orioles? Is that
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and they're in big need for some starting pitching too. So, I think that'll be a great fit for him.
And the Orioles are close. I know they're selling a little bit. They're selling their rentals, I guess.
He
But
fits their timeline though.
yeah, they are in the next 2-3 years. That division is going to be low. Every team's going to be trying to win because you got Adley, you got Grayson Rodriguez, Gunnar Henderson, who shot up prospect rankings, a stud. Like, and you just got you just picked first overall. You got the Orioles are really going to be set up for a long time, and they might be selling now, but I know Orioles fans have to be. It's tough to deal a guy like Mancini, but they have to be excited for the future. Yeah. All right. So let's go a couple other the other big trade. It did not happen today, but I know me and you, when we were saying buy or sell, Mariners, buy, and oh boy, did they buy. They go get the best arm on the market in Luis Castillo. They had to pay a price, though. They paid a price. They given up, it was their number 2 of their top 5 prospects. It was a lot, but I like the move. I like the move. Pairing Castillo with like a Robbie Ray, who hasn't been the Cy Young caliber, but still a good arm. You got Logan Gilbert. This team, I think, is quote. This is one of the funnest teams to watch. More fun, whatever the correct English language. But I know people have been quoting them saying they're America's team. They are just so much fun to watch. And adding a guy like Castillo, they're gonna be a dark horse in the playoffs. They really are.
Once J-Rod gets back and gets fully healthy and is in that lineup every day, I don't know if you want to see them come October.
No, I think it's going to be very interesting. The matchups in the AL on who plays who. Would you rather play like the Mariners, or let's say the White Sox make a run and they sneak in? Do you want to play the White Sox?
Yeah.
Or do you want to play somebody like the Blue Jays, who they could put 25 runs on you?
AL's crazy deep this year, man.
So it definitely gives Seattle another dimension, and I think it changes them from really just like a playoff team to a playoff contender.
How do you feel about Seattle, Jack?
I mean, like you guys said, they just have a lot of fun pieces. And, adding Luis Castillo, I mean, he has one of the best changeups in the league, adding it to that rotation. You got Brash, who's also disgusting. I don't know if he's starting or he's out of the pen, but some of the best stuff for them there. I like you guys said, I would be pretty scared to play them come October. And, if they make a run, they're one of those teams that are going to, I feel like teams are kind of going to underestimate, and then they're going to look up and series is going to be over and Mariners going to be walking through. So I don't know. Like you guys said, very interesting, very intriguing. I'm excited to see where this last half of the season ends up for them.
Yeah, and the Reds, like we said, got a haul, especially for you did not. I mean, you expected a lot, but to get Novelli Marte, their top prospect, also get Edwin Oraro and Levi Stout, all top 5 prospects in their system. I understand that they got JP Crawford, and he's going to be their shortstop for a couple years at least. You would hope. So that position might be blocked. But to trade like that much, it's definitely risky. It's definitely risky to trade a couple high-end prospects. But you got to love teams going for it, especially teams that haven't always gone for it, and a team that hasn't really had any playoff luck in how long? Since we've been alive?
Yeah.
So it's always good to see teams like that really go for it. But there's still a couple big names left on the market. JD Martinez, do you think he's dealt?
I don't know, man. Is he to your Mets? Is that where you're thinking?
God. I mean, I wanted a Vasquez combo because McCann has not been getting it done, really. He's on the IL. Nito's great as a second catcher, hits with runners in scoring position, but otherwise, I mean, he said it himself. Like, there was a live stream with him and Guillorme on the All-Star game. Somebody asked him, like, what pitchers do you hate facing the most? He's like, all of them. Just look at my numbers. I can't hit a lick, which was hilarious. But like, dude is has a great arm. I mean, throws guys out from his knees, which is just spectacular. Doesn't have to get up at all. Just a great locker room guy. So, but like you need catch. So just to get like a guy like Vasquez would have been nice. JD Martinez fills that DH spot. But it depends on their price. It really does. Because the Mets said they're not going to trade one of their top prospects. I don't really want them to. I mean, obviously Francisco Alvarez, the best prospect in baseball, who you got me gushing. Not going to get dealt. Brett Beatty. Unless these guys, the only reason a Beatty, Alvarez, even like a guy like Alex Ramirez, who's been a stud, they're not getting done unless it's for a Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani, which then it's unload the bank, baby. Like when you get, oh my God.
I think that's going to end up being the story of the deadline is if we do see a Soto trade, then we'll see the rest of these big names fall. But I think everybody's kind of keeping their war.
Yeah, I think they're kind of hesitant because they don't want to give up a prospect that would keep them from getting Soto. I think for the couple teams like the Cardinals and the Padres, that's why the Padres didn't have to didn't give up one of their top prospects for Header. They gave up a lot, but didn't have to give up one of their tops. So I don't. Speaking of, we'll switch to Soto now. Like Martinez, I do think ends up getting dealt just because he's a rental, but Soto, apparently the Cardinals don't want to put Dylan Carlson in the deal. That's what's keeping it really right now. He's Dylan Carlson's a great player, but is that going to keep you from getting Juan Soto, bro?
It shouldn't. But I think realistically, Soto gets moved at the winter meetings.
I think they're going to be like, this is our price. You don't meet it. We're not gonna deal you. And I think it opens up. I think if they go in the winter meetings, it opens up for prospects like Jack to be dealt because they can't get dealt until after the season. So I think that opens up for a lot of teams like the Mets with the Kevin Parada, other guys for the Padres and the Cardinals. And if he gets dealt to the Dodgers, oh my God, that's so unfair. But the Dodgers. So I think they end up holding him.
I would agree, but again, you have to think about the money that's being thrown around with these big name guys is unbelievable.
Half a billion. At least he's going to get half a billion.
At least legitimately start a bank.
Like it's like ridiculous, and you just think, I mean, it's going to be that way moving forward. Every big name guy from here on out. I mean, it started with Trout. Now it's going to be Shohei. It's going to be Juan. It's going to be one of those guys. Everybody's going to be searching for the biggest contract just so they can say that they have the biggest contract ever. And I mean, granted, great, you're making $450 million, but geez, like again, that's where like the cap to me, like if you want to make baseball competitive across both leagues for years to come and not just see the same four teams in the semifinals every year and the same two teams competing, like there's going to eventually have to be something along those lines that comes into play solely just to make it more competitive so that the Reds actually may have a chance to even make the post one year.
Yeah.
I definitely think they're gonna. I've talked about it before. I don't know if they're ever gonna do a cap, just because I don't think you want to see the Yankees just stop spending or something. But what I think that they need a floor. They need a floor, like $100 million. You got to spend, because when Max Scherzer is making more money per year than almost more money than an entire team's salary, one player, it's ridiculous. How are you supposed to compete?
Jack Perkins can get that $600 million contract in about 6 years.
I mean, that's the thing though. Like if somebody comes offering me $1 million, I'm taking it. But that's crazy about these guys is they know how talented they are and they know what they're worth, and they can wait. Like you said, they can wait out to winter meetings and get that huge deal that maybe it's not willing to take right now because for whatever reason. But I think he wants out of Washington. He wants to be with a contender, and he wants a deal that's not a $15 million or 15-year deal. He's going to want something in that 5 to 8 range that, he's going to be able to opt out of and go somewhere else and maybe jump to another contender. I just think he wants to be somewhere that's consistently going to compete, and Washington is kind of going through a rebuild phase right now. And so if they're smart, they're going to get as much as they can for him with whatever team that is, solely just because I think no matter what, he's going to be gone at some point. But
yeah, it's just, I'll bring this up. Is Dylan Carlson, because this is the difference of having Juan Soto for 2 postseasons or for 3 postseasons. And that might not, that to an average person, I mean, like, oh, it's just one post. Juan Soto makes a lot of a difference for 1 postseason. like easily. I know you
Last
got
month,
gold.
Kobe
I know you
finished
got
5 on 5.
Goldschmidt. I know you got Arenado, and Goldschmidt looks like I mean, if Austin Riley doesn't continue to hit like this, who he got a bag today, by the way. Goldschmidt's your MVP in the NL. He's not your best player anymore. It's Juan Soto. He's the face of your franchise. That's how good this guy. And he's 23. He's 2 years older than us. It's absolutely lunacy. But last I'd say big player that hasn't been dealt is on your Cubs. That's Wilson Contreras. And I think he's definitely going to get dealt. The Cubs, they could, I know a couple Cubs fans, it's tough to see this kind of thing going through, but you chose not to pay your players.
Yeah.
It happened 2 years ago. You can't be half in. You go full rebuild. You get the prospects you need. It's tough to see it go like a Mancini. These are homegrown guys that have been with you for years. It's tough to see them go, but this is a guy you can get a lot for. His price is probably going to go down with Vasquez being dealt, but you're going to get at least one top prospect. It's going to just help turn that rebuild a little faster. As like we've talked about, the Cubs, it's going to be a couple years, but if you deal, it's going to be faster when you deal guys like Contreras, who is in his 30s, is probably not. This is probably going to be his career year, to be honest. It's his career year. This is going to be his high. He's going to leave in free agency if you don't deal him. So you might as well get something. So I don't see a way that the Cubs don't deal.
I don't think he would leave. And, it kind of just helps keeping a team leader around like that. But they didn't re-sign the other core of the team, the championship team. And looking back on it now, it looks like they made the right decision because Bryant and Baez. Rizzo's had a pretty good year, but
Rizzo's turned into just kind of like, because of that short porch that like an 8-year-old can hit a home run off in Yankee Stadium. He's gone from like maybe like a 260 hitter to a 220 hitter, but he's just trying to pull that ball to the short deck, and you can't blame him. I mean, like I might be able to hit a home run at Yankee Stadium. It's that short. Like,
going back to it though, as much as it hurts to see the Cubs selling, and I mean, they make like the 4th most money in baseball and still be sellers and not want to spend money. I think they're making the right moves, as much as it pains me to say it, but I think Hap's also probably gone to.
I mean, yeah, he's also going to be a free agent. So, and he's going to get a lot of a switch hitting center fielder.
Yeah, and he's great defensively. Dude,
don't deal him to the Braves, please. Don't. I don't. They're already biting at my heels. I already hear Atlanta fans love to talk. Don't give him any help. Please don't give him Jock Peterson again. That I don't need to see Jock 2 years in a row just raking for this team. So, what do you think about these rentals getting dealt, Jack, and just kind of trying to help really fast forward the rebuild, I guess, if that's the correct term.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, if you're gonna deal the core, you might as well go all in and finish it out but make sure you're strategic with it, and you got to get the guys you really want. Like you said, it's just super. It was hard to see Bryant and Rizzo and Baez go just because they grew up in the system, and the success they had bringing World Series to Chicago, and then now potentially seeing Contreras and Hap go. Just one of those things. Like if all those guys are on the same field together, like they're contenders every year. But at the same time, I think they go all in. I think they go get some big name young prospects. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cubs go get like a Hunter Green from the Reds, like unmatched.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, we'll see if he's available, but I mean, the cheddar he throws is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I feel like the Cubs and the Reds are always making trades together, which is crazy to me because they're kind of like rivals, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm interested to see this last 20, because this deadline was so hyped up, and it's starting to get a little interesting, but like it's been I'm staying up to like 2 a.m. like, yo, where the trades at? Come on. Like, I'm losing sleep for this. Like, I see the NHL deadline heating up, the NBA deadline. NFL deadline's always usually a dud, but MLB deadline, especially with last year's deadline, was so good.
Yeah, we
Like,
never know who's going to be the next jock and take the team, be the spark that leads the team.
exactly. Like, yeah, you have those players who you think are a small impact kind of guy, or maybe just like a DH or a utility bat, or even a good piece, like maybe like a Hap, but he just goes on a tear and all of a sudden he's hitting 350 with his other team.
Yeah.
And then you have the other ones where a guy that's looking like a stud, not trying to say anything, but maybe like a Frankie Montas, all of a sudden now pitching at a 5 ERA, a 6 ERA instead of like his 3. So you never know if anything's going to work out being in a new team, a new environment, new people, new city, new fans, especially when you're going from, let's say, like Cincinnati or just like a lot of these teams to like an East Coast team like the Yankees or the Phillies or Boston, where if you don't do well, I know as a Mets fan, you're going to hear the boos.
Yeah.
You are going to hear the boos, and not every player is cut out for that. So definitely interested to see how the next 24 hours play out. Jack, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for joining us for the interview and just talking some baseball with us. This was a blast, man. Really was.
You're welcome back anytime, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you would let us know what you think on the deadlines in the comments. Me and Andrew's Twitter are in the description. Do you think any trades are going to happen? Let us know the winners, the losers. If you got questions for Jack, let us know. I'm sure he's willing to answer, and I'm sure you got questions on whether how good this stud is going to be. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Josh Sharf, Andrew Alt, and we got Jack Perkins here, and we'll see you on the other side.